What's up, y'all? In the absence of my old recording setup at home with my big monitor connected to my Elgato connected to the consoles, my channel will now pretty much just be me talking about my thoughts. And honestly, my primary audience is going to be my future self who's going to look back at this video and think, huh, what a dummy. What a silly goofball, huh? What an unintelligent person who hasn't been through the same experiences that I have. I am so glad I don't think the way that this guy thinks in this video anymore. At least that's what I'm hoping for, because I'm gonna talk about motivation. All right. So, oh, by the way, also, if you're not my future self, hello, welcome to the channel. This is like, I guess this is also kind of like therapy, or at the very least, it's a way for me to express my thoughts freely, you know? But anyway, it's a video journal slash diary slash whatever, which I think will be cathartic for me to help release my thoughts and to help me gather my mind. Anyway, goodness, horrendous communication aside, let's get right into the topic of the video, motivation. So, you may or may not be aware that I'm creating an indie game called Blazerang. You might see some of the songs for that game on my channel. And I initially wanted to make that game to implement some concrete ideas that I had in my head. I had a very clear vision of what I wanted to be in the game. And over the course of the past, I think 2.5 years now, I've implemented pretty much every idea I had that was clear in my head when I initially came up with the game idea. Or, I mean, I implemented every single idea that was going to be in the game. And now I'm sort of thinking, now what? Because my passion for creating this game came from those initial concrete ideas. That's where my desire came from. The desire to bring these visions to life. So now that they are alive and all I have left are um, other things, which I'll get into later, I'm thinking, what is the point? What is the real reason I'm creating the game beyond this point now? Is it for the sake of releasing a full game, putting it on Steam, making some money? Maybe, but I mean, I think the best art doesn't come from a desire just to make money. Or else, of course, you would do what's popular at the time, what makes the most money at the time. You just jump on a trend. I think the best, most interesting art comes from vivid ideas that come from within the creator's mind that they just want to bring to reality no matter what. All right? No matter what the influences are from the world around them. The idea in their head is what's most important. Now you might be thinking, oh, that idea in their head, that could have come from outside influences. That is a good point. I will think on that. Okay. But let's get back to me because really this video is truly all about me. What do I want from Blazerang now that the most concrete ideas are there? Hmm. Well, okay. There's definitely more to the game than what I already have implemented. The ideas that I've implemented in the game are only a very small part of all of the ideas I've made for the game. So, all of the ideas that I have, I either have a cloudy sense of what they're going to be, and I don't really know what they're going to be exactly just yet, or I'm not even sure if they're going to be in the game, or they're they are kind of concrete. I do have somewhat of a good vision of what they should be, but they come later in the game, and I don't know how the player will progress to that point. You see, the ideas that I've implemented in this game, future me, you'll be aware of what I'm talking about here when I talk about um, the rose, the axe, the shurikens, X, the mites, and the gauntlet, of course, and to some extent the ball walker. Of course, those words are going to be absolutely meaningless to anyone who isn't you or anyone who hasn't played the game in the future if we end up releasing it. But you will understand that those parts of the game, at least in my mind right now, are the early game. All of the concrete ideas that I wanted to get out into the world and have implemented actually in the game, at least to some extent, an extent that I can be satisfied with, all of those ideas are early game. I do have some other ideas that I think are at least semi solid, but those come later in the game. Those will come when the player has more skills, more powers, more abilities. But I don't know how to get the player exactly from the early game stuff that we've already implemented and the mid to late game stuff that I plan to have later. I don't know what that transition is going to look like. I don't know what the overall progression is going to look like. There's some blind spots, there's some weak points that I still haven't fully fleshed out. Oh, excuse me. I don't know where this gas comes from. But anywho, what should I do in this case? All right, now let's bring things back to the topic of motivation, all right? What does everything I just described have to do with motivation? My initial motivation for making the game is to bring these ideas to life, right? But now my primary motivation, or at least the primary goal, right? Let me separate this. Goals, motivation. Goals, motivation. In the beginning, my goals and my motivation were the same. My goal was to implement these ideas in real life, and my motivation was to implement these goals in real life. But now my goal becomes create or fixing those blind spots, creating those transitions between what I have in the game in the early game and those points in the later and end game. That my goal now is to create the content. Do you see the difference there? Like before, I had the idea and it was my goal to implement it. But now the goal is to create the idea. And I'm thinking, is that enough motivation? Is that goal worthy of motivation? The desire to create something was what I thought to be the most meaningful kind of art creation, or at least that's the kind of art worth pursuing. But if you're creating for the sake of creating, and you don't have a clear vision in mind just yet, if your goal is to create the vision, then is that really a source of motivation? I don't know if this is coming across clearly. It's either extremely obvious what I'm talking about or completely unobvious, and I don't know which one it is to you guys. So I guess just to hammer the point home, I try to summarize it. For my own satisfaction, I want to summarize it. I want to be able to optimize my communication. On second thought, I think it's clear. Before, my goal was to create the art because I already had the vision in my head. But now my goal is to create the vision in my head in order to make other visions that I've had in my head to life. But is that enough motivation for me to continue? Is it worth going through this process? I don't know. Because I thought the only way to make art, or at least the best way to make art, or the only way to make art that's up to my own standards, was to already have that vision. I thought I need to make art that's all, or I thought I need to have the vision first, then make the art. But you know what? Maybe that's too close-minded. Maybe there's beauty in actually creating the art. No, I mean, coming up with the idea of the art. Maybe there's beauty in that. Maybe I need to be more appreciative, more receptive to new processes. I need to be able to. Yeah, I need to be able to embrace new processes, embrace new changes. I need to be able to see the beauty in not implementing an idea, but creating the idea. Isn't there such beauty in a challenge? The challenge of making something that fits with everything else. The beauty of creating an idea. The beauty of creating something that solves a problem. Because this game development journey, it doesn't just have to be about one thing. It doesn't just have to be about me bringing my ideas to life. It could also be about solving problems that help me bring my ideas to life. Solving problems that get me closer to bringing my ideas to life. I said it twice just because it's so nice of an idea. I heard a noise coming from downstairs. That was a bit scary. But is this enough motivation? Is it still fun? Is it something I could still be like personally passionate about? Making video games is my personal pastime because I find it fun. And is it fun because I'm just taking my ideas in my head and bringing it to life? Or is it fun because it's challenging to bring these ideas to life? Is it fun because it's challenging, or is it fun despite the challenge? Where does my enjoyment come from? Does it come from successfully bringing the idea to life, or does it come from the process, the challenge of bringing it to life? Or is it both? I get both the challenge and the reward. Well, everything I enjoy in life the most is a challenge. Elden Ring challenges, Sifu challenges, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, those are challenging in their own right, but not fun enough for me to make challenges for. I play games for the sake of challenging myself. I make games for the sake of challenging myself. I have to appreciate the process, but what does that really mean? The process of seeing things come to life, or the process of solving problems to make things come to life? The process of solving problems to make things come to life. Maybe this discussion actually comes from the use of AI. You see, for the longest time making my game, I wanted to do the coding myself. I wanted to put myself through the rigor, the challenge. But now that I've done it for the past around 2 years, maybe a bit less than that. Now that I've done it for the past almost 2 years, I wanted to do a different kind of challenge. So I got rid of one of the challenges, which is the coding. I decided to stop coding and decide to use AI, vibe coding instead. And now the challenge is gone. Is that why I'm questioning my motivation? Is that why I'm suddenly feeling this way? You know, I didn't question myself when I started making the mites and the ball walker, which were ideas that I wasn't so confident about either. But could these questions come from the use of AI? Possibly. In the absence of one challenge, I am questioning my motivation to play. Oh, wait. After removing the coding challenge, I find myself questioning my motivation, which means my motivation stems from the challenge. Oh. So I need to challenge myself. So that is the source of the motivation. The source of motivation isn't seeing things come to life. It's the challenge. It's the challenge of bringing these things to life. I see it now. I get it now. But now that AI can code the code, and now that the challenge is very much mitigated compared to what it was before, I need to make a new challenge. And guess what? I'm at the perfect point of that new challenge, or to grasp that new challenge, to have that new challenge. I'm at that point where the challenge is not to implement the idea, but to create the idea now. Now what I'm doing is the fun part. I'm making AI do all the boring stuff, the coding, and I'm the one creating the idea. No, wait, no, I've always been the creator of the idea. Now my challenge is to create the idea. I finally moved up. I finally leveled up. After so long developing, I've created a baseline. I've created the basic systems of the game. I've created much of the basic systems of the game. I created the player character, I created their abilities, I created the enemies, I created their AI, I created the environment, I created how the nodes and the scenes are structured in Godot. I've done all of these things, and now the one kind of challenge, or at least the first kind of challenge that I could tackle after all of those other challenges, is the creation of an idea, a missing piece that will help put the game together. I see it now. That's where my motivation has to be. It has to be in the challenge of creating the idea. I created this video because I wasn't sure where my motivation would come from. And I wasn't sure if the challenge of coming up with a new idea was something worth pursuing. But now I get it. The challenge of creating a new idea is beautiful. And the challenge is what makes the game development journey so satisfying. After getting rid of all the other types of challenges, or at least the ones available to me, now I get to tackle a new challenge. This is the motivation. I wasn't sure whether it was the motivation because challenges often hurt, but it is. I'm glad I understood that about myself. And it's all thanks to this camera and this mirror. I'm looking at my own face as I record this. Anyway, if any of y'all had gone through the same experiences, good for you, but this video is mostly for me. And if you're curious about my brain and how it works, I guess, you're welcome. I'm sorry if you weren't able to get anything out of this video because it was designed primarily for my current self to understand myself and for my future self to look back and think about the changes that have happened in his life. So, my bad for wasting your time, I guess. I'll put a little warning that this video is mostly just for me. But, I mean, in the off chance, in the very slight off chance that this ends up helping anyone else think through their game or any art development journey, I think I'll still make it public. Anywho, this went on for far longer than it should have, but it was the most natural way that I communicate to myself. I don't want to edit the video unless there's a really long period where I'm thinking, like that one cut I made in the middle. Was it the middle? Maybe it was closer to the beginning at this point. 40%. But yeah, the whole reason why I'm not making any cuts or any edits is to show what I'm actually like when I'm by myself, when I'm thinking to myself. Showing it in the most authentic way is what I think is the most meaningful. Because if I'm just over-editing myself, then you don't get the real me. Anywho, that'll do it for this video. Thank you for listening. And I'll catch you all when I decide to think another thought that I think is at least somewhat worth sharing.